now we're going to go over the section 3.2 notes, properties of parallel lines and special angle theorems. So, we talked in section 3.1 about what these different angle types are, and it's very important that you learn how to recognize the different angle types, and then now there's some more information that we can learn about those, that if the lines are parallel, there are some things that we can use based on that. So the first one is the corresponding angles postulate, and it says if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then corresponding angles are congruent to each other. So the way we're going to abbreviate that, because we're going to have to write this reason a lot, so the abbreviation is going to be helpful than writing out that whole sentence every time. If lines parallel, and remember just like an 11 is a symbol for parallel, and then you can use an arrow to represent then, and then corresponding, we can just abbreviate it by CORR period. Angles, we can just draw a little angle with a little S after it, and then we can just use the little congruent symbol. So if lines parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent, and that's a nice abbreviation for that. So if we look for the corresponding angles in this particular picture, we can see that, like we talked about yesterday, corresponding angles are in the same relative position with respect to the two lines and with respect to the transversal. So like 1 and 6 are a pair of corresponding angles. Okay, I'll use different colors to show them. 2 and 5 are a pair of corresponding angles. Okay, angles 4 and 7 are a pair of corresponding angles. And the last pair would be 3 and 8. Again, the same relative position. Okay, so I know that because these two lines are parallel and these little arrows are telling me the lines are parallel, that I know that therefore each of those 4 pairs must be congruent because they're corresponding angles. And the lines are parallel, so therefore they are congruent. Okay, so now let's look at another angle type. One of the other angle types you learned yesterday were alternate interior angles theorem. So with that one, we said if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, the alternate interior angles are congruent. So again, to abbreviate that, we can say if lines parallel, then alternate interior angles must be congruent to each other. So again, that's our abbreviation. And now we need to find some alternate interior angles, and there's 2 pair. So again, alternate meaning different sides of the transversal, interior meaning inside the 2 lines. So one pair of alternate interior angles would be 3 and 6. So I'm gonna write that down as an example. Another pair of alternate interior angles would be 4 and 5. Okay. All right, so then next, let me go ahead and erase those. It's talking about alternate exterior. So for alternate exterior angle theorem, it says if a transversal intersects two parallel lines, then alternate exterior angles are congruent. So if lines parallel, then alternate exterior angles must be congruent. So we try to find some alternate exterior angles. Then again, alternate meaning different sides of the transversal, and exterior meaning outside the 2 lines. So one pair of alternate exterior would be angles 2 and angle 7. And another pair of alternate exterior would be 1 and 8. Again, outside the 2 lines, different sides of the transversal. Okay? And then our last pair are same side interior angles. These are the ones that are not quite like the others. Okay, same side interior angles says if a pair, if parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then same side interior angles are supplementary. Maybe underline that, you know, as opposed to if you want to underline the congruent ones for the others. All the others are congruent when the lines are parallel. This is the one that is not the same, it's supplementary. So again, we can go ahead and write our abbreviation. If lines parallel, then we abbreviate same side interior angle by SS and then INT. Same side interior angles, but don't put congruent, put SUPP for supplementary. So that's our abbreviation. And then from there, we can identify some same side interior angles. One pair of same side interior angles, again, same side meaning same side of the transversal, interior meaning inside the two lines. So we've got 3 and 5. And the other pair would be 4 and 6. Okay. All right, so let's go and move that up and see some examples there. Okay, so the directions here say find all the angle measurements and tell which theorem or postulate is used to justify each answer. And they are telling us that A is parallel to B and C is parallel to D. Okay, so on this, it is first asking us what angle 3 and angle 4 are. And it did tell us that line A is parallel to B, so I think that's helpful to mark on your picture. And C is parallel to D, so that's good to mark on your picture as well. So, and they tell us that this is 105, and we can, based on these lines being parallel and knowing this one angle, we can figure out what all these other missing angles are. And there's sometimes different ways that you could do that, but you know, you can kind of do what comes to you first. So if I want to know what angle 3 is, then you know, sometimes it's helpful to block out part of the picture. I can think, okay, well this 105 and this 3 are alternate interior angles, and so since the lines are parallel, they must be congruent to each other. So that must be 105 also, and so I can put 105 here, and then for my reason, I need to put the same abbreviated reason we were putting up there. You know, if lines parallel, then alternate interior angles congruent. Whatever reason I'm using to figure out that answer, I need to put that reason here. Okay. Then on the next one, I can say, okay, now they want to know what 4 is. Okay, so if I look at this angle compared to the 4, maybe I block out this part of the picture, and I can see, okay, here's my 2 parallel lines, here's my transversal. I can see those 2 are same side interior angles, so they must be supplementary. So I can go 180 minus 105 to get 75 here. And so I can put 75 here, and then for my reason, the one I just used was same side interior angles. If lines parallel, then same side interior angles are supplementary. Okay, and so I'm just doing that same idea to fill in all the other missing ones. Okay, if I want to figure out what angle 1 is, again, maybe I block out this part of the picture and see that, oh, well, if that's 75, that has to be 75 because those are alternate interior angles, so they must be congruent when the lines are parallel. So I can say angle 1 is 75, and again, I can say if lines parallel, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Okay, now maybe I go up here and they want to know what angle 2 is. So there's different ways I can do this. I can either say angle 1 and 2 are vertical angles, so they must be congruent. I could say 75 and 2 are corresponding angles, so they must be congruent. You know, so sometimes there's more than one way you can figure out that answer. I'll go ahead for this time and go ahead and use corresponding since we haven't used that one yet. So if that's 75, then that's 75. And so again, I'll say angle 2 is 75, and I can say as my reason, if lines parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, now they're asking me to find out what angle 5 is. So it says you can skip around. You don't have to go in this order. I'm just showing you how I might have done this in this order. And so in this particular case, you know, if I want to know what 5 is, multiple ways, again, you can think of it. You can either think of these are vertical angles, so they must be congruent. You can think of these are corresponding angles, so they must be congruent. You can think these are same side interior angles, and since the lines are parallel, they must be supplementary. Any of those ways work. I guess the one we haven't used yet are the vertical angles, so I'll go ahead and do that this time. So I know that angle 5 is 105. And for my reason, yeah, it's a little different than the reasons we're doing here. We can just say vertical angles are congruent. Okay, from there, let's see, it's asking for angle 6. So, again, different ways that I could do this. But the first thing one I could do is these are alternate interior angles, so they must be congruent. But one we haven't used yet that we learned earlier in the year is a linear pair. I know that these two angles are forming a straight line together, so they must add up to 180. So therefore 6 is 180 minus 75, which is 105. So again, stuff we learned earlier in the year is fair game as well. So I can say angle 6 is 105, and then I can do here, I can say that they are a linear pair. Okay, angle 4 and angle 6 form a linear pair, so that would work there. All right, then on number 7, or for angle 7, again, different ways I could do it. I can see corresponding angles here, corresponding angles here. I can do vertical angles here. Any of those work. I'll go ahead and do corresponding this time. So I can say angle 7 is 105, and that's because if lines parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, and then the last one they're asking us for is angle 8. So again, multiple different ways I could figure this out. I can see a linear pair here, a linear pair here. I can see corresponding angles here. I can see same side interior angles here. Lots of different options. I'll probably just use corresponding angles again. So that must be 105. But you could say something different if you wanted to. So if lines parallel, then corresponding angles are congruent. Okay, so that is the 3-2 notes minus the proofs. We're going to come back and do the proofs another day. But again, let me know if you have any questions.